Hello, everyone. My name is Sangeeta, and I'm a program manager on the identity team at Microsoft, working on authentication experiences for users inside and outside of your organizational boundaries. I love this topic. I get to work on this with customers like you every day at Microsoft. I'm excited to be here today to talk about external identities and how to build experiences that work for your users.
And hello, everyone. My name is Josh. I'm also a program manager within the Microsoft Identity team, and I work on features to enable customers to connect and collaborate with users outside of their organization seamlessly. And I'm also excited to be here today talking to you about using external identities to build applications for your organization to connect with users inside and out.
Today, we'll talk about the trends we are seeing in customer and partner identity management as more and more relationships go digital. We'll then look at how Azure AD External Identities can help create customizable, flexible, and secure experiences for your external users. We'll then wrap up with a few demos. So let's get started. Every relationship is becoming digital. This inclusive relationship, not just with the employees, but also with users outside of your organizational boundaries, such as customers, suppliers, vendors, partners, and citizens. This is true more so in today's world, where we are all dealing with a global pandemic, and working remotely or living most of our lives online is the new norm. As you know, millions of users around the world are learning how to collaborate online for the first time. And consumers more than ever are turning to online services that they never used before. We are seeing years of digital transformation in months. This is great. But how you collaborate and connect with all your constituents in this digital world can be very challenging. It's especially challenging when relationships evolve over time. An applicant to a university today can be a student tomorrow, and then an alumni going back to the university as faculty or as a student, needing very different levels of access at each stage, without losing context to all the history that they already have with the university. Security is obviously top of mind as the users connect with you using their own devices and their own identities, increasing the surface area for attacks. Organizations are no longer made up of only traditional employees that have a badge and an email address. Increasingly, organizations have blended workforce that includes vendors, part-time workers, and gig workers. The level of access these users need and the trust an organization has on these users could be very different. And finally, there is a need for IT consolidation. Organizations many times have opted for specialized identity solutions, especially to manage external users that increase cost of operations. Reducing this cost is a goal for every organization, especially in this current environment of a global pandemic. So as your needs for digitally connecting with your external users grew, you've asked us some really hard questions, such as, how can I ensure that all my users can collaborate well, whether these users are internal to my organization or external to my organization? How can they collaborate on the same applications and same resources? How can I engage with partners that are too small to have an IT department? Can I let them sign in using their social identity or an email address or even a phone number, just the way I let my consumers in? How can I enable secure collaboration with external users without becoming their help desk or giving them a username and a password that can get compromised anytime? This leads us to a trend that we're seeing in customer and partner identity management, which is this growing need for convergence of capabilities across identity systems. So far, we assumed that employees, customers, and partners have very different needs. And we did a great job keeping these identity systems separate. Turns out the flexibility of experiences, branding, and customizations that we enabled for customers are equally important for partners. The flexibility of bring your own identity that we build for customers is equally applicable for partners. The advanced identity protection systems, such as risk-based access that we build for employees and partners, are equally important for customers. We've heard from you that you want the best of enterprise and the best of customer identity management capabilities to be available in a single platform so that you can build experiences that work for your users, whether these users are inside or outside of your organizational boundaries. The flexibility of user experiences, the spectrum of customization, and the advanced security and lifecycle management capabilities should be available for everyone. Let's take a look at what Azure AD External Identities can do about this. With the new self-service sign-up capabilities and external identities, your partners can now get very customer-friendly, customizable, and flexible user experiences. Users from your partner organizations can now self-service register and request access to your resources. You can brand and customize the experiences. You can ask the users for information that are important for your business relationship. You can choose the identity providers that you want to enable for these users, including some social identity providers, so that your users don't necessarily need to create a new account to collaborate with you. You can integrate with external cloud services so that you can validate the information your users enter. You can use external providers, such as Ideology, to verify that your users are indeed who they say they are. And all of this is completely under your control. These are all configuration-based setup with no code change needed to your applications. Let's take a look at a few demos. Over to you, Josh.
Thanks, Sangeeta. As Sangeeta has talked about the trends that we're seeing in the external identity space, we wanted to be able to show you what we're doing with Azure AD External Identities that can help you solve your problems with connecting with users outside of your organization. We're going to go through and show you a demo of Woodgrove Groceries and an experience they've built for their partners to enable them to come to an application, self-service register, gain their account, and collaborate with them in an inventory application. Woodgrove Groceries has built this experience in a customized way that has their own branding, collects information from users as they're going through the sign-up process, and has actually integrated with one of our partners, Ideology, to proof the user's identity as they sign up to verify that they're a real person. We'll go through and show you this experience so that way you'll have an idea as to the experiences you can build with Azure AD External Identities. Today will be John Smith. John Smith is a new supplier to Woodgrove Groceries, and he needs to go through and sign up as a supplier so that way he can access their inventory application. John Smith needs to ensure that Woodgrove Groceries stays stocked with his supplies so that way it stays on the shelves, enabling Woodgrove's customers to purchase it. John Smith has been given some information about the Woodgrove Groceries inventory site, how he can sign up, and how he can gain more information about how to use the site after sign up. So let's get started. John Smith's on the page, and he's going to start by clicking Sign In. This brings him to a page where he sees exactly what he needs to go through and request his new supplier account. There's a section for partners, which is what he is to Woodgrove Groceries, so he's going to go ahead and choose to request your supplier account. This brings him to the Woodgrove Groceries sign-in page, which is fully branded for Woodgrove Groceries, so that way he knows he's at the right place. There's also an option to create an account. Since he's a new supplier, he doesn't have an account yet, so he'll choose Create One. Here, John Smith sees that he can go through and sign up with his Facebook account. That's great because he's a small business owner, and he uses his Facebook account on a daily basis to conduct all of his business. So John chooses to sign in with Facebook. This brings him over to the Facebook consent screen. You'll notice that John didn't get prompted for a username and password. Since he's always signed into Facebook as he's conducting business on a daily basis, we were just able to give him single sign-on, so there was no password prompt. Here, we'll go ahead and choose to continue as John, which sends John back to the Woodgrove Groceries sign-up page. Woodgrove has chosen to select to collect more information about John as he goes through the sign-up process. The other thing Woodgrove Groceries is doing is they've integrated with our partner Ideology to do identity proofing. This ensures that as users come through and sign up to their inventory application, they're proofed as a real person. So we'll go through, we'll put in the information for John Smith, his supplier ID, and the supplier that he works for. And we'll click continue. We get a message back that the identity could not be verified. That was the Ideology identity proofing. John notices that he's got a small typo in his address. So he corrects the typo, chooses continue, and this allows the sign-up process to complete. He then lands in the Woodgrove Groceries Partner Portal, where he can do everything he needs as a Woodgrove Groceries partner and supplier, including viewing their inventory. Sometime after signing up for his account to Woodgrove Groceries, John comes back to his email, and he sees that he has a link to access the Woodgrove Partners collaboration site, which is hosted on SharePoint Online. He clicks that link, and it navigates him to the SharePoint sign-in page. Here, John goes ahead and puts in his email address that he signed up previously to the Woodgrove inventory site with. So he puts that in, and it goes ahead and redirects him to Facebook. But because he's already signed into his Facebook account, he gets single sign-on. After navigating through that, he lands in the Woodgrove Partner SharePoint page. Here, John can do everything that he needs as a collaborator of Woodgrove. Woodgrove chose for the users signing up to their inventory app to go ahead and provision them access to this SharePoint site as well. And you can see here that John is signed in with the same account that he signed up with previously. On this page, John can do everything that he needs to collaborate with Woodgrove because they've given him the ability to do so. Here, he can access the Woodgrove Inventory App Guide to learn more about how to use the inventory application that Woodgrove had him sign up to. So as we just showed in the demo, Azure AD External Identities provides a lot of capabilities for you to build customized, flexible end-user experiences. You're probably wondering, what did it take to set all of that up? So now we want to go into a demo and show you the experience for actually configuring that, what we had to do to create that experience for the Woodgrove Groceries inventory application to enable those external users to come and sign up. So let's take a look.
Here we are in the Azure portal in the external identities section, where we'll go through what we did to configure the demo that you just saw from an end user standpoint. In that demo, we leveraged the external identities self-service signup capabilities that created that customized signup experience that we saw John Smith go through. So let's take a look at the steps we took to get that up and running. The first thing that we did was come to external collaboration settings and actually enable guest self-service signup via user flows. This is the setting that fully controls whether self-service signup can be turned on, and by default, it is turned off. So we enabled this setting, and that's what allowed us to go forward and configure that customized signup experience. The next thing we did was actually come here and create connections with Facebook and Google. That's what allows those external users to use social identity providers as they're coming in and going through the signup process. To set up those connections, it's actually pretty straightforward, and all you need to do within Azure Active Directory is provide the client ID and client secret that you get from the respective developer portal. So in this example, Facebook developer portal would provide the client ID and client secret, and then you would just come here and plug those values in, and that creates the connection that starts enabling users to sign up and sign in with those identities. After that, during the sign-up process, we actually saw the user provide information during the sign-up process. So we leverage custom user attributes to collect information about the user during the sign-up process. And you can see that there's quite a number of built-in attributes in the list that you can choose to collect. But during that sign-up process, we also collected supplier ID and supplier name. These are custom attributes that we created in Azure Active Directory that enabled us to include them in our signup experience. So if there are things beyond the built-in attributes that you need to collect about these users who are coming in and signing up, you've got the full capability to create custom attributes that can be collected. We also saw during the signup experience the integration that Woodgrove had done with Ideology to go through and proof the users who are signing up to ensure that it's a real person. What we've done here is created an API connector for identity proofing that actually integrates and talks to the API that we've built for ideology. This allows us to modify the sign-up process and send information out to that API endpoint so that way we can run some process, in this case, identity proofing, to determine if the user should be able to move forward in the sign-up process. You can also see here that we've got API connectors for external approval systems as well. So there are many use cases that you can use with API connectors in modifying the sign-up flow in self-service sign-up. Lastly, we created a user flow that goes through and brings all of these settings together. So when we come into the user flow, we can see an overview of what's contained within it. So we can see that in the identity providers, we've got Azure Active Directory sign-up, Google, and Facebook, which controls which identities users who are signing up, what they can choose from. User attributes, we've chose what to collect about the user, and you can see that, like John Smith saw, we're choosing to collect a different number of attributes around the user's information, like given name, surname, address, and then the custom attributes for supplier name and supplier ID. For API connectors, we've said that before the user gets created to run the identity proofing API connector, and that's what actually controls when we saw in the John Smith demo, clicking submit and getting the error back that the identity couldn't be verified. And then lastly, we've customized how our layout form looks when the user's going through the sign-up. So we've selected the order that we want the attributes to show up on the page, and then we've given a nice display name for supplier ID and supplier name. Lastly, to make all of this work, we simply associated our Woodgrove Partner self-sign-up application with this user flow. As soon as we made that connection, we went through and were able to ensure that users coming to that application have a sign-up experience available. After we associated the application with the user flow, that is what creates that custom sign-up experience that we saw John Smith go through. After John Smith signs up, we get a user account created in the directory, a standard guest user that can be used to access resources throughout the Azure Active Directory and Microsoft 365 tenant. We saw John Smith access a SharePoint site, and the way we set up access to that SharePoint site is by leveraging the features built into Azure Active Directory around dynamic security groups. So when we look at this user, we can actually see which groups John Smith is a part of. And John Smith, after signing up, automatically got added to this Woodgrove Partners external group. This is the group we use to grant access to the SharePoint site. And we actually created a dynamic membership rule that will go through and populate the users who sign up into this group. And we can see here that we created a dynamic rule that says user type equals guest, automatically put the user in the group. Once the user is put in the group, they have access to the resources that you've assigned that group to. And in our case, the Woodgrove Partners SharePoint site has this group assigned to it. So John Smith signed up, was granted access to this group, which in turn granted him access to the Woodgrove Partners SharePoint site, as we saw in the demo. So all of this brings together a customized sign-up experience and then more features within Azure Active Directory that you can leverage to provision and grant users access to other resources. These users who are going through and signing up are full users in your directory, just like any other guest user. So you've got the ability to give them access to things beyond the application that they signed up through.
Now that you've seen what's possible with Azure AD External Identities and self-service sign-up, we hope that gives you a view on where we're going with this. But you're probably wondering, how can I manage these users going forward? And since all of this is built within Azure Active Directory, you can leverage all of the capabilities that Azure Active Directory brings around securing and managing these guest users. You can leverage things like conditional access policies and terms of use to secure your resources. You can periodically review these users' access and make sure that they have the access that they need. And if they no longer need it, remove said access. And lastly, you can leverage one of our newest features in Azure Active Directory around limiting guest permissions in the directory. So you can ensure that these users aren't doing too much. We hope you've enjoyed everything you've seen today, and we'd love for you to go through and try out the features that we've shown that are currently in public preview. You can leverage these features to build applications that you can extend and enable to connect with users outside of your organization. We're really looking forward to your feedback and learning with you.
Thank you very much for your time today. I hope you learned about the capabilities of Azure AD External Identities and give it a try today. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.